journey so far. Now, if I'm correct, you began as a writer before moving into art?
Yeah, I was, as a boy, at my very first, I had two careers mapped up. One was to be a comedian, which in a way I still am, because people look at these pieces and smile. I'm not quite sure why you do smile, but they do smile. And another interest of mine was psychoanalysis. I loved the idea that something could mean something else. But somebody once said a cigar is sometimes just a cigar. But I love the idea of sexual analyses and metamorphoses and metaphors and so on. So I was drawn to Freudianism and comedy, but neither of which I practiced. But then I thought, sounds like a writer. So I wanted to, and I still am a bookworm, and I often paint pictures of books and use books and read books. I'm a kind of lonely boy in his room, or woman in her room, reading books. So I'm a bookworm. And so I thought, well, it's natural to want to be a writer. But then, strangely enough, people say, how did you become an artist? And I thought, the answer to becoming a writer is become a school teacher, because they get lots of holidays. That's why most school teachers become school teachers. There's 10 or 12 weeks holiday. So I went to study to be a school teacher, and I wrote about some writers I liked. And they were all imaginative or fantastical or surrealistic, or you might say creative writers. I wrote about Kafka, who wrote about Gregor Samsa woke up in the morning with his legs in the air as a giant beetle. And I wrote about Lewis Carroll, Through the Looking Glass. And I wrote about 6 writers that I liked. In our introduction, you had to write about who you like. And they said, no, that's not English literature. English literature is Jane Austen and the Brontes and Charles Dickens and so on. It's all 19th century novels. But luckily for me, and luck is a big part of life, isn't it? The people who ran the art department said, well, we'll have him because he sounds creative and imaginative. And so luckily I went and I didn't choose to be an artist. It was a last resort. I wanted to be a school teacher. And I had already 1 or 2 children. I was only a young man, and I really needed that job, so education. And so I said, yeah, I'll do art then. And I was asked to do art, or told to do art, or I had to do it.
So what were some of the first pieces that you were creating back then, or teaching?
Well, what I was creating then was, because again I hadn't drawn naked women, or vases of flowers, and I still can't draw, unfortunately, naked women or vases of flowers that they do in art schools. I used gloss paint. So in the very early days of pop art, Peter Blake and Patrick Caulfield, 2 famous English pop artists, used gloss paint, or household paint, which you have to do it flat because it would run. So you do a painting flat, and then when it's finished, hang it up. When it's dry, hang it up. So I used gloss paint, and I always did pictures of things. Famously, I did licorice all sorts, all laid out, not Bertie Bassett sort of taken apart. Or I did, I don't know, rainbows or skeletons or anything that was representative and in a way funny. There's a moment when I realized I should do funny, and I did hearts. I was looking always for, as I am now, different imagery, as it were, robots or exhibitions or whatever. I'm always looking for new kind of imagery. So I was looking for images.
Okay, interesting. And so rainbows are still part of your work now,
yeah.
And I've seen you describe them as an illusory experience that you've tried to define almost with the hard lines in some of your works. What is it about the rainbow or about those concepts that keeps you interested?
Well, I think with one of the things that artists do, oddly enough, is they take a cliche and try to revive it and renew it. So I've just been in some galleries, and a lot of people have Mickey Mouse, you know, which is an old image from the 1920s, but people are still using Mickey Mouse and trying to give it life, trying to give the mouse life. And it's a kind of a cliche, a given thing. And in my case, you know, perspective is a given thing. Is it, you know, it goes to a vanishing point, and it's got made of trapezoids. It's very normal for people, young teenagers, to study perspective. It's a given thing, and rainbows are a given thing, and they're also supposed to be, you know, a sentimental cliche. But what I could do with rainbows was make them live again. You know, I would make them straight, or hang them up over the moon, or pile them up, or wrap them up, or just mess with their minds, as you might say, to make them new. So a rainbow's if you're brave enough, you can take a cliche and make it new. So the example I always give is Oscar Wilde took a cliche and said, work is the curse of the drinking classes. You know, the cliche given was drink is the curse of the working classes at the end of and he said, work is the curse of the drinking classes, and he revived it into an inspiring saying.
Yeah, you just mentioned there, you know, the ability to mess with people's minds, whether you're taking it from that cliche or the paradoxical nature of your works. What is it about that illusion, the perspective, that you find the most interesting? Is it warping people's minds around that, or being able to facilitate? Because really it's ultimately your mind that is perceiving that work as a different perspective. Is there something there that stands out to you that motivates you to continue to create those works?
I think the most interesting thing is that all you who've, say, seen these works either in film or today in real life, is you bring as much to it as I do. Because on Sunday night, there'll just be pieces of plastic and paper folded up. But while you're there, they move and you bring them to life. And I think that's a really important thing. You know, when an artist does something, that's just half the job, and then he shows it to people, and what do they get out of it? You know, we're not just involved with what he gets out of it, we want to see what they get out of it, and what you get out of it, in my case, is you make them move, which in a way is one of the marks of life. You know, if the snake's wriggling, it's alive, and if it's still, it's probably dead, or lying doggo, most likely dead. So it's bringing something to life. Yeah. I feel I'm really lucky that I've made something that you can bring to life when you see it or watch it on film.
Are you surprised at how well that's translated into the digital realm with NFTs and VeVe? Because even that is somewhat paradoxical, to take this physical piece and bring it to life in the digital realm.
Yeah, I'm thrilled, because I remember when our phones, not long ago, I'm that old, were just stills, weren't they? We just had stills. And I remember when photographs were black and white, and when movies were black and white, weren't they? And a still photograph, I don't like them, you know. You know, you want to see people, we're interested in life, aren't we? We're alive. If we were dead, we might be interested in death, but we're alive, and we're interested in life. And the movie, the film, so the NFT contains that life, you know, in a special form, in its jewel-like form. It's a hidden jewel somewhere. That it's something that's a move and alive. Yeah. And that's what I'm really happy about. Is having, when I found VeVe all 60 years ago, more or less, I was thrilled that it kind of came to life in my eyes and in your body as well, isn't it? Because it's when you're in the presence of the real thing, it's like a dance, and you're dancing and your partner's dancing with you, you're dancing against them.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe take us through the design process of some of these retrospective pieces?
Yeah, what I have to do is, I've mentioned earlier, I've got to find an image to do, you know. And in a way, I'm a box artist. We are in a box. When you go home, you'll be back in a box. On the way home, you'll probably go in a box on wheels, you know, various kinds. and this is a box, and this is a box that opens up, and this is a box. So I'm always looking for instance, something that goes in a box, like a Brillo box, which is a famous box, or a telephone box, various boxes, like in the case of the robot, he's in a crated box. So I'm often looking for an image that will go in a box, and of course Venice is a box, and art galleries are boxes, and so on. So in that sense, I'm a box artist, which is not so out of the way, because we probably spend most of our time in boxes, don't we? We're born in a box and we go in a box, and out there's a lot of boxes. So first of all, I'm looking for that kind of geometry to fit with it. You know, it can be very fierce, perspective geometry going very rapidly to a vanishing point, or it could be more general and more gentle. And then I'm looking for the imagery and the lighting as well, because you have to have light planes and dark planes. The way we can tell where things are is because if the lights were not on, we wouldn't know where we were. You need the light, and you're always painting the light on the wall. So that's what I do. And then physically what I do is I have a guy called Jason make something about this size in wood, in MDF, and Harold he makes a thing, and then me or somebody else we polish and finish it and paint it white and stuff like that. And then we go to the computer, because luckily Photoshop came along roughly about 20 years ago, and we can, into Photoshop we can put in let's say a Venetian place, and it goes in square like this, and then we can make it into a trapezoid, you know, a perspective Venetian palace like that, and fit all that together, and then paint them very, very carefully with from tracings and from photographs. We can make all the paintings, and then eventually put it on the wall and see if it works. Which in the very early days, half the time it didn't work.
That was my next question. Yeah, you have to paint them to see if they.
Yeah, you can't. There's certain things you need. One of the things is you need light and shade. You know, so around here, say I'm looking in that corner, that where the clock is white, and where the clothing rail is a paler grey, and then it's a slightly darker grey with the two slats going down it. And that enables us to see those distinctions interest me, those planes of colour. So underneath it all, planes of colour that enable you to distinguish a lot as you make your way through the world. Really, it has to have. Somehow we know in our neuroscientific brains, we know what light is and what it's doing and where people are and what they look like. You see it shine on people's noses.
It's true. And David, while we've got you, I think everybody knows that what we get on VeVe are pretty much the things that you're a fan of. How did you discover Patrick's work? How long have you been involved?
Well, I know Patrick's work for a number of years before I actually know who Patrick, the person is. I have seen his work even as far as up in some of the Hong Kong art shows in China art show. I've seen a couple of pieces even in Taipei art, just on the secondary or for collectors and showcase. And we with VeVe, we work with a partnership with VeTel to bring this alive. And when Jacob approached me originally with a whole slate of artists, Patrick's art stood straight away to me, because I know the artist that works, and straight away go, well, this is Patrick Hughes' work, and that's how we started. Secondly, with VeVe, the NFT, I always wanted to bring another level of experiment, and I think we use the word experiment a lot when we talk to our audience. It's not just you know, in the NFT world, people use the utility overuse. For us, is how we could experience that, you know, interpretation from the artist to you guys and talk to you guys the most. And the AR aspect within the app are best to use for what Patrick's work is. I mean, as you guys know, the work you almost have to, it's got that lenticular effect that when you move left, right, and I find it in the real life in the artwork. If you visit the gallery downstairs in the VeVe stand where Patrick's books and artwork is, if you're close, you know, for me, it's very hard to see the work sometimes, but I find it quite easy when I, you know, shut one side, and I just see that, you know, it's not even optical illusion, you just see that whole pop out, that retrospective from your work comes alive. And I just thought VeVe needs to bring this to our audience. Now, it was very difficult to do this project because your artwork, in VeVe, in the 2D art world, normally we would just UV map it in, and quite easy. With Patrick's work, as you guys know, it's got that cave and the pop out. We had to get designers to redesign that whole measurement, and that whole experiment needed to be 100% accurate. And I remember going back and forth with Jacob in the email, and when we skinned it over, it just didn't work, because you can be off by a millimeter and the artwork would just not speak to you. And you know, I spoke to our design team. I said, you have to make it. And I think we went back. Jacob had to physically measure the actual artwork, every aspect, how many millimeter, redraw it. We had to 3D it, to pop out the whole thing. So it's a great project. Why do we want to do it? Apart from that whole experience, is really Patrick. You know, he's still very young, energized, but able to understand the technology and evolving into digital NFT is very, very important to me. I want this to go down as a legacy. In a way, we have one of the world, you know, greatest artists. I mean, if you guys know some of Patrick's work, it goes for hundreds of thousands of dollars in auctions and galleries. And one of the things that Patrick also wanted to do is to ensure that these work can be shared with, you know, thousands of fans out there at the lower price. If you haven't got hundreds of thousands of dollars, you still can be owning something that he has created. And that was something I felt very important for our audience. And we always talked about we have the one-of-ones, but we really wanted to bring this to the fans, you know, having it to share with all these audience. That was important, and you know, and the willingness to try new things in this industry is very, very encouraging for us. That's one of the main purpose all around this, and how we cooperate to collab this so fast and launch into VeVe.
Sure. And Patrick, you mentioned Photoshop helping to really revolutionize the way you did things. Do you see NFTs and this kind of digital adoption changing the way you do things moving forward, or do you think it's just going to let you reinvigorate some of the works that you've already made about?
No, it's interesting to hear David's talk, and yeah, the whole business of visual science, really, which lies behind it, and computer power, is very, very interesting to me. And I've just devised something new, which is remarkable for me, which is a pair of dice. Jacob's seen them, haven't you? That just hang in the air, as it were.
Yes.
And I that has come about through working with animation and thinking about animation. Because animation movement and that sort of thing is so exciting and all revealing, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, look, we'll open to the floor, but I know one of the questions someone will have, at least I have, is are we dropping more of Patrick's work?
Yes. It won't be at Decon this weekend. Obviously, we do want to celebrate the Decon artists on its own, and what we have slotted in, I think, on our next month or during end of Q3 or beginning of Q4, we are going to be releasing 3 Patrick's work, and I do believe that we are going to do one of the piece will be the robot, and there will be a LunaRobot as the second one, and the third piece is one of my favorite, and I actually purchased the original the minute I saw, is the House of Cards. You know, the amount of hour went through to draw these cards into this, it's just absolutely amazing. So there will be 3. They are slightly different than the one that we have drawn, because it's not as long as the full landscape we have done. So it's more boxier as like everything you have done. So we haven't announced the edition size and how we're going to be doing them, if it's going to be separated or blind box. Simply because maybe we want the users to have a choice or preference to pick the one they want. Maybe the robot will be on a blind box, and then the House of Card will be on its own. And yeah.
As you guys know, all of those details might change before.
Yeah.
Just be aware of that.
Yes.
And Patrick, my last question for you: do you have a piece that you've done that stands out the most, or that you enjoy creating the most?
Yeah, but I do often get asked this question, and the answer totally is no, because you're always excited by your latest work. Like I'm excited by my dice, and I'm working on the dice last week and this week. You're always really going to the newest and latest thing. But sometimes when you look through a book like this and you see something, you think, oh, that was good. Occasionally you do see something, you think, yes, that's the one that's in the British Library. If you go to the British Library, they're on the Euston Road, and you go to the coat check. I decided over the coat check. This is hanging, has been hanging outside the coat check since 1996, and people walk past it, and people often put it on videos. And there are many videos. One video of a work of mine in Birmingham, it was 37.6 million views. You know, was a guy did on his iPhone, and this is one of those with many views. So sometimes that is a sort of signature piece, because I know so many people have done it. But I would never do it with that kind of greeny top. I would have a sky. I would have some more sky, the beautiful blue sky up there. So you're critical as well when you see an old piece.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, but those criticisms help shape the next work, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so should we open to the floor?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Anyone with a question? I guess we'll do hands up and then go around the room.
Is there a drop in 2 minutes?
Oh, maybe.
There is.
Up the back.
Are you going for this drop in a minute?
All right, you guys can go for the drop first. All right, we're going to
Well, in the meantime, Jacob, do you want to talk about the book signing and anything about VeVe?
Yeah, so after this will be holding a book signing on the retail stand. Everyone's welcome to just queue those orderly line, and we'll go from there.
Great.
No guarantees on the orderly line. And guys, the retail stand is just next to the VeVe booth, so if you haven't seen it, we're just out there.
All right, you guys want to participate in the drop? We'll do the Q&A after the drop. We're releasing something in a couple of minutes. That's why.
Beautiful witness to the
No, I haven't.
VeVe.
Is it going to take place here?
Yep.
Yeah, well, they all in the app right now.
Oh no, it's 2 hours.
Instant visible.
2 hours and 11 minutes.
48 seconds.
48 seconds. 40.
Yeah.
So,
35 seconds.
the box behind the line here.
I know
Yeah.
So you need to push it. When the box comes up, quickly. You've got to beat all these people.
I mean, it's not that good.
As soon as you shine him, it's under the heart now.
The technique.
6, 5,
No.
4, 2, 1.
Yes, go.
Yay!
Who's got it?
Yay! Let's go.
Okay, should we do a price, Alex, for
Should we do
who's
what?
got the highest mint number?
Oh,
Oh, wow. Oh, you have to share me that later.
What did you get?
That looks great, doesn't it? Yeah, that's the all.
265 rare.
That's all, but
Yeah. Could you share that?
Yeah.
Thank you. 154,
265.
265, 442, the highest edition number.
Oh no, mine's too low.
The only time you're ever
54,
Yeah.
544, anyone got higher? 626, 626. We're in the 6 now.
626.
There we go.
Sounds like it.
6-2.
Is it, what are you giving?
A logo.
626.
626.
Anybody can beat 626?
626. Sorry for that interruption. You witnessed a live. Did it sold out?
Oh, I don't know.
It sold out.
Did it?
In 1 second. Oh, hold on. There's 7. And you got it. 724. You got it. Take it back. VeVe is pretty generous. We're pretty generous.
Okay.
We're not going to take away and give we give.
All right, fam. Question time. Anyone have something pressing they'd like to know about Patrick's work or life or history, anything there? Yep.
Question about collaboration with your artists. Have you ever thought, or have you done before, as an experience for the viewers, collaborating with using music to enhance the experience?
no, I haven't done anything with music, but mine is a very collaborative art. When I did a work, I did a few works a long while ago that I couldn't do because I couldn't draw, and I did. One of my things was I know it's some people know it. A guy is running away from his shadow, and the shadow is pursuing him like this. He's a guy in a bowler hat, and it was drawn from him by my late friend Les Coleman. And I did another important piece that I have upstairs in my studio. You'll see later today, which is the railway line infinity seen from the other point of view, and it comes towards you. And that was drawn for me by my friend Paul Hammond. And both of them are dead now. They were students of mine, but they predeceased me. And I do a lot of collaboration. And when I'm talking about making these shapes, I'm collaborating on a day basis because Jason is making these shapes, and Kirsty is painting them and making the frames. Donna is working the computer in Photoshop, and then I've got 9 painters. There's Ian and Ioana and Justin and Tim and Callum and so on. There are 9 of us painting. So I am involved in collaboration. But music is, though I was on this tour yesterday of the music of Harlem in the 1920s, Josephine Baker and Bricktop and people in Paris yesterday evening. I don't have a relationship with music that way, but I do love I use some words in music like the flow and the beat and things like that. So I have got a kind of, to my mind, a silent musical quality, I think. Because of the, in classical music they're called movements, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I'm a big lover of, though a poor dancer, of movement. Yeah, so I suppose there is a musical side to it. But we don't have music in the studio. Nobody listens on headphones because I'm always shouting out.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Do you ever struggle with what to call the thing? Like you've got the vision of what it is, like great expectations. I love the name of it, sort of thing. But have you ever like made something and then you can't think what do I actually want to call this piece?
Yeah, I've got a list of possible titles, and I can't remember what title I used. But there was for a long while a shop opposite us, a gay S&M shop in Great Eastern Street, and it was called Great Expectations. That's what the guys had. And I thought Great Expectations must have come to my mind. It's a great novel by Dickens anyway, although that's stopped me being a writer. But yeah, I have got lists of titles, and I like, one of the bad things is you have a good idea for a title. Some people think you had the title first and then you'd made the picture fit. But actually it's quite easy. As sub-editors in the newspapers know how to write a headline that encapsulates the features of the news. And they do that after the news, you know, they're clever headlines. And the title is a bit like a headline. You could find it, I don't know what might happen here. What's this called? Doesn't look very interesting. It's called Bay Windows, that's boring. Well, that's called Super Duper Perspective. That's the one that's in Birmingham City Art Gallery. And so we know this perspective, and then I had this whole book is called Perverspective, because in modern day, pervert means somebody who is sexually wicked. But in the early days, it meant somebody who just turned away from the regular path. And so it was perverse. My grandmother said to me, it's perverse of you, David, to put your shoes on before your socks. You know, something like that. So I thought of reverspective and perverspective and super duper perspective. So you have to think of a title, but those aren't very good. But occasionally there are good ones. And you can use alliteration like this one is called Manhattan Museums, or there's one which got a very wooden thing, so you call it Goodwood, which is a town where they have racing, isn't it? And so corner stores, yeah, here and there. I have a lot of, I enjoy making the title, but the dull thing about the title, unless they're really good, they never stick. You know, my title is Patrick Hughes, and I remember it, but it's you don't choose your own title, do you? Somebody chooses your name for you. So I'm not very happy with any particular title, especially Bay Windows. But that one in the British Museum is called Paradoxymoron, which is a title of a book by me. So there are paradoxes and there are oxymorons, and I made a paradox. So often you can join. Lewis Carroll called it a portmanteau word, like slither, wasn't it? It was slide and slither, and he said slither. So yeah, it's a good question. I like to think of a good title. I'm glad you like creative.
Yeah.
Creative.
I've got a question. Who are you looking at as a future legend? Like, you must have some artists that you're looking at thinking they're going to be tomorrow's stars. Who are you looking at, a couple of names?
Well, you know that on the stand that I'm on is some work by a girl who works for me, a young woman who works for me called Zoe Moss, who's terrific. And I think of the people that I was looking at Ai Weiwei, who's a bit younger than me, and he, at the weekend yesterday probably, and he has some good things. But yeah, I think something that I belong to a tradition of imagination and humour and perversity of wickedness and surrealism, and I believe that I'm part of a sequence of things, and people take on these same attitudes, that aren't conventional and boring and you know, just regular. I'm a member of the irregulars, you know. Everybody else is out of step except me, kind of quality. And I think there are people like that who are doing. That's what artists do. They always want to do something different, don't they? I hope. It must be different, mustn't it? Why would you do anything the same?
Did you, some of your traditional collectors, Patrick, when they heard you in NFT, did they go, what's going on? I mean, did you get your peers?
No, I think people are very excited by the world of the NFT. Yeah, people just are fascinated. I spoke to a woman today called Fionnuala Boyd from Boyd and Evans that you'd spoken to, and she said, yeah, I was very interested to hear it. So people are there's always something, you know, there's been new, in a way, there's been new methods of printing, haven't there? Etching has been pursued and lithography has been pursued, and I can remember screen printing and that went out, dot matrix. It's a new kind of printing technique in a sense, isn't it, what you're creating and mining. And so there's always another way of representing.
Yeah, I think I've really found that over the journey. A lot of artists we work with, the artists themselves are really excited. Any pushback comes from people outside of that scope.
Oh yeah, that was your question. Yeah, I didn't answer your question. No, I don't know about what the collectors think. No. But I know the artists are excited.
And how many of you guys, if you can put your hand up, you're on one of the NFTs of Patrick? Wow.
Wow, thank you.
And thanks a lot to VeVe and Patrick for making this possible. We've never heard of you before, and it's amazing to be able to own.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Probably one more question, if there's any.
Anyone got one? Anything pressing?
Hi, no, just to ask, have you seen people using your collectibles in AR, in pictures, when they take them out? And
I have sometimes, yeah. I have seen them put them on the wall. Yeah, I have. It's fun. It's great. It's very interesting to see their walls and see how they. Yeah. That it is great. I have seen that somewhere it's in LA. I think it's kind of a blue room, and it was great to see it there.
Yeah.
Just sitting there, and it's thrilling, as though you could be anywhere.
yeah, I've used the Great Expectations, we put it in the backdrop
Yeah.
on over the sea with the mountains in the background, and it's just it just brings it to life because you're trying to get the angle
To take the photo.
to take the photo, and it changes in the matter of.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
it's just, thank you for letting, it's just so different to anything else.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. And how many copy of books have we got? Because I don't think, I mean, you've seen yesterday.
Yeah.
It's around 60.
Okay.
Yes, I got
Yeah. And I think they're £25, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully Patrick will be happy enough to sign for you. Yeah.
Until it runs out.
Yeah.
The unsigned ones are the rarest.
Can't sign one. All right, Ben. Massive thank you from all of us. Thank you. Can we do a group selfie with Patrick in it? Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. Hold on, I'll move the table back a bit. Patrick, you can stand over here. You guys want to squeeze in?
Where am I going to go in the behind?
Oh, yeah, no, you have to. Yeah. No, you okay, in the guy in the front. Okay. 3, 2, 1. VeVe! That's going on live, by the way.
Oh, man. That's got like you know.
Yeah, here we go. See your screenshot.
Yeah, of course. I'll record it later. Yeah, I will.
This and then sign up. You get one of yeah, I can't walk into the
Thank you. All right, guys, we will see you guys downstairs. Oh, we do it downstairs. Yeah.